Late game execution bites the Knicks in the butt once again. 121 to 116. They lose to the Hawks for only the first time in the OG Anunoby era, where he's played in two straight games and they've lost both. Tough stuff. We're going to talk about it next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And we wanted to remind you guys, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. And also, thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or checking us out on YouTube. We appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Make sure you subscribe and hit the auto download function or the notification bell to make sure you never miss an episode. I'm Alex Wolfe. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find strict.land. He's Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And Gavin, everybody's favorite basketball team, had another tough loss today. This was, I would say, more disappointing than the Houston loss, just because of quality of opponent. Little annoying to give Zachary Rissache his sort of like best game as a rookie thus far. You know, we're only so far into the season at this point, but 2 years in a row, the Knicks gotten roasted by a number one overall pick. Last year it was Wembanyama when he spoiled Brunson's 60-point game. Today it's Rissache gets 33 points against them. But I think that's sort of the first thing to underscore just how disappointing this game was from a defensive perspective. You know, the Knicks just, especially down the stretch, really blew this one, but I think they sort of laid the foundation early by not playing good defense right from the opening whistle in this one.
Yeah, this is about, before I get going, for people watching on YouTube, I'm going to apologize for looking like a ghost in the background music. I'm recording in the basement of my mom's apartment building because I'm on vacation right now here for a wedding. So shout out to everyone in New York. But yeah, as disappointing as my background may be, this effort from the Knicks was even more disappointing. This is a low point for me with this team, which we were talking about this pre-show is pretty typical with a Tom Thibodeau team that you and I have a Doom podcast at some point in like the first 10 to 15 games. I think you've matured a little bit over the years and you're not as reactionary. I have not matured much and I'm still very reactionary. And I was not feeling great after this one. Just a lot of different issues. Mikal Bridges still not super involved. Only got up 10 shots in this game. Shot 4 for 10. Only finished with 10 points. Not a single free throw. He's now only taken 7 free throws in 9 games. The Knicks' inability to provide him with a role that is equivalent to both his ability and also just the amount of pick equity they put out for him, and frankly, just how much this team needs him, has been offensively probably my single biggest disappointment this year. And I thought the defense was really not good in this one. Like, in a vacuum, giving up 121 points to the Hawks is not the end of the world. They're an elite offense. Like, and on any given night, obviously Trae Young can just torch you, but it felt like it was a lot of avoidable mistakes in this game. Like OG Anunoby, who you're never really blaming for that, was like constantly in no man's land. And him and Mikal Bridges, who, like, I think have surpassed like even some of my high expectation of that on the floor, generally had their worst game as a tandem defensively, where they were often like both stuck on the ball or both switching. They were constantly both doing the same thing and leaving people wide open. I think overhelping has at times been a little bit of a plague under Tom Thibodeau, and it reared its ugly head multiple times late in this game. Once where OG Anunoby, again, inside the final 3 minutes, I think, he doubled. It was Dyson Daniels with Karl Anthony, like on a short roll. Karl Anthony Towns was right there. Dyson Daniels would have to go at Towns, and Towns is like, we'll get into this too. He's been a terrible rim protector this year. That is fine though. Like, Dyson Daniels is not going to kill you in that spot. And he doubled off Rissache, who, to your point, was freaking cooking this entire night. It was a French bakery in there. banging three after three, wide open. He hits it. And then Tom Thibodeau, this one's on him. He calls for a double on Trae Young because he sees Jalen Brunson in isolation. Josh Hart comes over. Somebody else has to rotate down in that situation. Because if not, Cat's under the basket with two players. Young just kind of calmly passes to Richer. His heart was sort of hesitant and coming over. Nobody rotates over from the top. Cat has two guys on him. Richer just drops in a little floater. And it just feels like very basic stuff that they were messing up, not only down the stretch of this game, but the entirety of this game. And it ruined a really good shooting night for the Knicks, where they played a team that was not switching their pick and roll. And it feels like whenever they're playing a team that doesn't switch, they're getting great shots. They got 28 threes in the first half. They shoot 22 of 47 from three, which is 47%. 22 threes, one of the highest marks in terms of made threes in the history of the franchise, and yet they still somehow find a way to lose to a relatively mediocre Hawks team. So I'm not feeling great after this one, Allie.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't great on either end. I mean, I'll just point out too, if you want to talk about the Wingstop trio of OG and Mikal and Josh Hart, I didn't think the Hart had his best game ever either. I thought that he was culpable for a decent amount of Richer getting hot early. Which was, I think he bailed him out with some fouls early on, and that'll embolden a young player, to keep driving at someone if they think that, they could potentially get a foul out of it. Like you can either, just kind of stand him up, or you can, bail him out with a dumb foul, get him free throws and tell him to do it again, and then get yourself in foul trouble. And it just kind of snowballs from there. I thought there was some of that. I thought that, in general, the rotations just were not crisp. Like, the Hawks are just getting whatever they wanted in terms of cuts to the basket. I feel like, the amount of times that they went way too hard on Trae Young out of pick and roll, and then someone was just left wide open backdoor to come in for I think if he didn't hit on like almost a full handful of these, he at least threw at least like 5 or 6 passes that were just like easy lob passes to guys cutting backdoor. And converted on a number of them, like whether it was to Daniels. I think Jalen Johnson got 1 or 2. Clint Capella might have had one. Like it was just a lot of opportunities for them to just kind of waltz right to the basket because the Knicks were over helping and just doing too much for a team that, I don't want to be dismissive of a team that just beat the Knicks, but like they haven't exactly been lighting the world on fire. They've been sort of a tough out this year, like more probably than I thought they would be. In any given game, the Hawks, that is. But, all in all, a team that I think you can game plan for, and they have game plan for, and they've generally played the Hawks really well ever since, the 2021 postseason, which obviously is what, Trae Young likes to probably still think about. But like, that feels pretty far in the rearview mirror for the most part for the Knicks. And this felt more like that, where they just kind of had no answer. They didn't seem to have a great game plan for what they were going to do with Trae, and they were just kind of always scrambling as a result. And, it showed through in the ultimate, result of the game. I'll also say on offense, like not getting to the free throw line a ton, I felt like they were, for as great as the 3-point shooting was, I thought that in some ways they were a little over reliant on trying to generate those looks and never got those opportunities to just like slow the game down, get to the free throw line, hit a few free throws, like keep things moving that way. Which is how, you can kind of slow down a team that's playing well in the Hawks, that we're finding rhythm and finding pace and everything else. You slow them down by attacking them on the other end and generating free throws. But instead the Knicks, they shot well from the free throw line, but only 12 of 15, only 15 attempts for this team compared to 22 for the Hawks. That doesn't really sit right with me, considering the amount of talent and foul drawing power and everything else that this team has. I feel like that's something they should be looking for more. And I just feel like they're not prioritizing getting to the inside right now. So just kind of just a grab bag of things that were kind of annoying that the Knicks did in this game or didn't do in some cases.
Yeah, a grab bag of kind of annoying things is a good sum up, maybe for the entire Knicks season so far. Certainly a possible episode title for tonight. I want to get into more on the offensive side, where I think Jalen Brunson is still maybe not playing to his best, and Mikal Bridges, how to find him, how to get him involved. We'll get into all that and a lot more about the Knicks offense next here on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about some of our newest friends here at Locked On Knicks over at HIMS. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. I'll tell you what, after a Knicks game like this, I certainly could not perform in the bedroom, and HIMS provides access to people like that to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site. The medical provider will determine the right treatment option if prescribed. Your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. So start for free online today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See the website for details on important safety information. Subscription required. Prices varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, welcome back, Alex. I would need a HIMS after that game. It was just a brutal loss, and this team continues to, I would say, have really good stretches of offensive basketball, and at times look pretty dominant. Certainly during the Indiana game, there were moments against the Cavs, against the Pistons, they looked amazing. Against the Heat, Karl-Anthony Towns was so good that nothing else really mattered. But against the Hawks team, that I didn't check after their last game, but as of 2 games ago, they were 28th in the NBA in defensive efficiency. The Knicks only scoring 116 points on a night where they get up 22 threes is not ideal. And there are kind of a number of places you can look to in terms of finding a culprit. One of them is that they got outshot by 16 shots. The Hawks got up 100. The Knicks got up 84. There were some offensive rebounding issues mixed in there. Certainly the fact that the Knicks had 15 turnovers did not help things, but I thought it was an overall not great night again for Jalen Brunson. 21 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, 8 of 18 from the field, 4 for 11 from distance. Perhaps the most glaring Knicks stat I've seen this year, maybe outside of that Mikal Bridges free throw number I mentioned before. Jalen Brunson is shooting just 45% from 2-point range this year. And all we talked about coming into the season was, all right, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to make Jalen Brunson's life easier than ever. He's going to find better shots than he ever has in the past. The lane's going to be wide open. He's going to be going one-on-one. You thought he was efficient before. Just you wait. He's going to cook. His first 2 seasons on the Knicks, 52% from 2-point range. Last season, 51.5% from 2-point range, all the way down to 45. And tonight, there were moments where it looked really good in terms of him getting to open threes. And a lot of that was when Jericho Sims was on the court. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Sims is just for all the things I don't like about Jericho Sims right now, he's clearly a better screen setter than Karl-Anthony Towns. And this is something our buddy over at Knicks Film School, DJ, pointed out. The Knicks are really missing Isaiah Hartenstein, who was an elite screen setter. Even Mitchell Robinson, I think, would make a big difference because you just don't see Jalen getting free on his initial move off a pick like he normally does. And teams have kind of glommed onto the strategy that the Sixers used with Kelly Oubre tonight. Like the tall defender du jour was Dyson Daniels, who made Jalen battle, made Jalen fight. And instead of just getting off the ball, he got a little stubborn and tried to go one-on-one with him. I thought there were times where Jalen was really quick to make a good pass and make the right play. There were open threes he hit coming off of Sims screens that were really good. But the late game, again, the execution was not quite there, forcing tough shots, including one really early shot clock after they went down by 4 or 5 on Dyson Daniels when he was right in his face. It was overall just a little bit of a disappointing night from the Knicks star.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about this and I was deciding before we started recording if I wanted to bring this comparison out. But I think I will bring it out, with the caveat of I don't think it's going to stay this way necessarily. I do still really think that this team is going to find their way here. But I can't help but think, with the way that things have gone for Brunson so far to start this year, it does feel in some ways reminiscent of how things went with Julius Randle in the 21-22 season, where it just seems like he's a little in his own head about his role with the team right now as the leader, as the guy that okay, yeah, the last 2 years, the Knicks kind of, I don't want to say they had no expectations, but 2 years ago, it was people were just like, let's just put this 21-22 season behind. And for Brunson, it was kind of just like, let's, prove that I'm worth the money that they gave me and whatever. And he certainly did that the first year. And then last year it was like, let's build on that. Let's become an all-star. Let's, try to get a little better, get to better standing as a team, make it further in the playoffs, whatever. And they did that. They made it a little further in the playoffs, just one game, but really you could say like there's probably a realistic shot that they should have made the Eastern Conference Finals had they not just gotten so ransacked by injuries. And Brunson makes all NBA, makes all-star, blah, blah, blah. Like things are looking good. And now this year gets the new contract in the offseason. And now suddenly is not on like a team that kind of can do no wrong anymore. He's now on a team that has the expectations of like, okay, it's time to turn this thing into like a championship contender. And I'm not saying that he's not ready for it. And he's saying all the right things still. He certainly hasn't displayed any of like the moodiness that Julius Randle is displaying like on the mic, like talking to reporters or whatever, or that, Randle had done back then. But like his on-court mannerisms are a little reminiscent to me of just like, he seems like he's in his own head. He's trying to do a little too much on offense as far as creating his own offense. He's clearly miffed right now at his treatment by the refs. Which, I think we're kind of just going through the same thing that happens at the beginning of almost every season now, where the league says, all right, officials, don't call as many fouls. And then 20 games in, they're right back to calling fouls exactly how they have for years, because they get tired of all these stars like complaining openly about, not getting foul calls. And so I think it's kind of a combination of factors, but if I was going to raise one alarm out of this game, other than some of the other things we already said, it's just like, there is something a little off about his body language and stuff on the court, even if he's still saying all the right things off of it. And they can solve, I think, some of that, but you can see that I noted this. I'm trying to remember which game it was. It was when Cat had 44.
The Heat game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the Heat game where he was just calling like I couldn't remember in my head if that was the Heat or the Pistons, but either way, he was just like, you could see him demonstrably on the court, like yelling for Cat and trying to get him up to set screens more and like pointing and doing like the like street ball thing and just be like, there, right there, like go right there, set a screen. And, really kind of getting animated, and you can tell getting a little frustrated that it's not just Cat's second nature to come set a screen almost every single time down the floor for him. And I think they're working on that, but I think Cat is also used to your point, slipping screens more. And it's clear that that's more his MO, is like, oh, I'd rather not take that hard hit and get the wind knocked out of me right before I have to get the ball and crash in and try to make a layup or whatever, or pop out and try to make a shot or whatever the case may be. Like that is kind of a downside of having a center that is more offensively gifted, in terms of scoring the basketball, is that, when he gets the ball, he's going to not want to have just gotten beat up right before he gets it, because then he's got to try to make a shot or something. So I think that sort of leads to that, but they do need to figure some stuff out. And, if it's not going to be Cat, then they need to start working in more screens with Josh Hart or something. Like Josh Hart, for his size, much like everything that he does on the court, he sets really hard screens for his size. Like let him start getting more involved in that respect then, or start calling for screens from OG that way or something, like, because he's a big dude that could take that. Really, I think what they're going to really need here and just need to do, I think once they have this full team together, is have Mitchell Robinson out there sometimes more, or Precious Achiuwa, who I think sets really, really good screens too. I think Brunson's going to be happy to have one of those guys back, because to your point, Sims can set a good screen. He just kind of can't do much of anything else. Maybe giving Hook Porty a chance too is a way to kind of fix that too. But definitely something going on at the center, like with the center point guard chemistry, that needs a little bit of addressing right now, I think.
Yeah, I said it last show. I think it's too early to. It would be a gross overreaction for me to say the best version of this team is starting one of Mitch or Precious in place of Hart. I am starting to be inclined, maybe not towards that, but towards like pondering that a little bit, because I think they need the screening. I think it's hard to say they desperately need the rim protection, because there was a stat out there I saw pregame. Teams are shooting 26 of 30 against Cat at the rim, which is impossibly high. I don't think even like over a small sample size, I don't know if I've ever seen something like that in the NBA. The good news about that number is coming into this game, it was just 30 attempts, which means the Knicks defense on the perimeter is doing their job and stopping like Cat from facing too much. I do think in the playoffs, like that number is going to skyrocket, and you just might need a better rim protector out there than Cat. He had another tough night in that capacity. We'll probably get into that more next segment, but I think you do need great screen setting for Jalen Brunson. And another part of the issue is like when teams are like putting bigger guys on Brunson, like they might also throwing on Cat and just say like, hey, we're going to be able to switch that every time. And more teams like the Hawks, like the Celtics, like the Rockets are loading up on these versatile wings where you could credibly like put like, maybe Dylan Brooks isn't the best example of this, but you could put him on Cat and then switch him onto Brunson. And it's not a great matchup either way, but it's not like a total disaster. It's kind of the same thing with Dyson Daniels where he can credibly guard both those guys. And if you're the Knicks and you are playing mismatch hunting, which they weren't doing tonight because, again, the Hawks weren't switching everything. When you play a team that's switching everything, like it makes more sense to involve Josh Hart because teams are usually putting their worst defender on Josh Hart, which is why you got Şengün there. But that dance is still going to take more time, and teams are going to be really creative in terms of how they guard him. And it's going to be a really fascinating test of what Jalen Brunson's ceiling is, because I've come on this pod, you've come on this pod, and we've described him as someone coming off the last two playoffs that was a top 5 or 10 player in the league. And maybe that's a little bit of seeing things through orange and blue glasses. But I also think it's reality in the sense that like he's been like the best scorer in the playoffs 2 years running this side of Luka Doncic. And like the statistics like are what they are, like in terms of points per game, that's what he's doing. He's doing it relatively efficiently without a lot of other help. And you're like, all right, if he can do it on the highest stages, he should be able to do it anywhere. But right now in an ecosystem that I think because the screening isn't as good and the team doesn't know each other as well, isn't what it was where he was excelling. Like this is a chance for Jalen Brunson to prove I'm a superstar. I don't need a specific context to be great. I am the context and rebound. And it's just whatever, like 7 games into the year, 8 games into the year, like there's plenty of time for that. He got off to a slow start last year, really struggled through the first 6 games. I do think there will be a point where he gets cooking. I am going to watch that 2-point percentage like a hawk because I want to see it bounce back. And I want to see him take advantage of all the space and continue to get quality looks. We're going to continue to talk about the offense. Mikal Bridges next. Josh Hart also having a tough night. Karl Anthony Towns on defense, and a couple more notes to finish up this episode of Locked On Knicks.
But first, listen up, renters. You ever feel like you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air? It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Bilt Rewards comes in. Bilt is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent every month. Pay your rent and watch the Bilt points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. And you can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Bilt Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Bilt points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. So earn points by paying rent right now when you join built.com/lockedonnba. That's JOINBILT.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Join built.com/lockedonnba to start earning points with your rent payments today.
And we also want to tell you about our good friends over at Game Time. Game Time is my favorite ticketing app, and that's because of a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Alex, I use this recently because I'm looking to get tickets to Knicks Suns. I'm living in the Phoenix area now, and how can I take advantage of that? Cheaper Knicks tickets than I can ever get in New York, but Game Time makes that even easier with Game Time Picks. I found tickets as cheap as $26 if I want to go in on the low end and just like get into the building, or for $180, I get primetime seats, lower bowl, right in the middle, seats I could never afford at MSG. But that's not the only way you can get an elite deal on Game Time. The other element that I always go to is Game Time's lowest price guarantee, which means Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket on a different site, which means Game Time is literally always the best option. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, we are back on Locked On Knicks. Alex, I will throw it to you. Do you want to hit on Mikal Bridges next?
Yeah, I suppose we should, because we sort of alluded to it earlier and then haven't really gotten back to it. But yeah, what about his role thus far on offense? I mean, you noted it before the show, and I wouldn't have noticed it at first, but to look at it, 0 free throw attempts in this one. It seems like they're getting increasingly worse at involving him in ways that aren't just essentially 3-and-D guy
Yeah.
actions at this point. Like either he's parked on the perimeter trying to get a 3-point shot, or in transition they've done okay locating him and getting him opportunities that way, or occasionally it'll be like a backdoor cut. Like he had one nice one, I think, during this one where the Knicks were sort of imitating a little bit what the Hawks have been doing to them all game, where he kind of made a nice cut and then got a nice dunk from a Brunson pass that way.
Yeah, he had two on out of bounds plays in this one. So that was 40% of his points came on out of bounds plays, which is cool, but not what you want.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's just all in all, 4 of 10 shooting, 2 of 7 from 3, 10 points. I mean, 7 out of 10 shots were just 3-pointers, and none of them felt like I don't know. He got hit in his shooting pocket a little bit. Like there was one nice corner 3 that I think OG fed him for in the corner of all people. Like OG has sort of low key become their best player at feeding guys in the corner for some reason. But like, I don't know. It feels disjointed with him, and I think that I think it is starting to get to the point where it's like, you have to look, if you're the Knicks, and be like, this is the guy that we gave up like the superstar package for. And I don't think it's any fault of his own. I think that they just need to do a better job of finding a way to either stagger him or, get him involved more with the starting unit. But like, I think that there's a real case to be made for keeping him out there as the guy that hangs around with the bench unit and letting him kind of operate as the number one option there. Like just utilize some of the skills he has more, because I think that he has some legit scoring chops and the ability to get to the mid range and the ability to get all the way to the hoop, and the ability to run and pick and roll pretty credibly and stuff like that. Like I think there are things that they're just not taking advantage of as it pertains to him right now. And it just seems like every game almost it's a regression rather than a progression as far as how much or how little, I guess I should say, he's getting used. It just seems like less and less and less with each passing game. But I know you feel kind of the same way because we've talked about it a little bit on the show and a little bit before the show. But it's getting to the point of being like, hey, there's a lot to work on, but I think that it's arguable that his role on offense is maybe one of the bigger things that this team has to kind of figure out soon.
Yeah, I mean, this is just not who they got. This is Suns, Mikal Bridges, and it's like early career. Like as someone who watched a lot of Suns, this is like second year Mikal. This is not the guy he's become, which is maybe not an all-star, but someone who's like a step below that and is like a credible like number 2 option on a really good team. And the Knicks are asking him to be an elite number 3, and I think he's like maybe not overqualified for that, but he's up for that. Like he is more than good enough for that. And we saw games last year where like he was going one-on-one and like teams like the Hawks were throwing like 4 or 5 different guys at him and like no one could stop him because he was just getting to his spots and he would rise up and he would score. And he was like super poor man's Kevin Durant. And this year, like even with his shot being like whatever's going on with his form, which is still, I think, maybe a small part of this, and him not being as confident as he could be, hasn't affected him in the mid-range at all. He's been an elite mid-range scorer. I mentioned in another pod, he was something like 65% from mid-range this year, which is like 90th, 95th percentile for wings in terms of mid-range shooting. Like he's been nails from there. His threes, like hitting everything from the corners. James L. Edwards had the stat pregame, 60% from the corners. He's only been 15% from the wings, which is one area you can look to. I don't mind that he got up 7 threes. I think the bigger issue to me is that he took just one other shot that was not coming off a pass, off a cut on a either sideline or baseline out of bounds play. That's the issue. Like the 7 threes are fine. He should have 10 to 13 other shots from other spots on the floor where he's creating, and he's taking advantage of the fact that a lot of times he's a smaller guy on him, and he's like able to shoot over those guys. And tonight, like the Hawks had big wings on him. I don't care. He's had like a year and a half of being the number 1 option and seeing the top defender in the NBA every single night. I know it didn't go great last year, but he still put up 20 points per game. The year before that, he put up an efficient 26 over a 27-game stretch. That guy is in there. He did not disappear. He's not confident right now. Like he got the ball at one point, 5 seconds left on the shot clock, dribbled in like in the same spot for 3 seconds, and then threw a grenade to Cat. That Cat then chucked to the corner, so like Brunson could get a shot clock violation, right? Like he needs to cook in those situations. And like, I don't know if it's the pressure of like the contract. I think a lot of it is the fact that like Jalen and Cat here, like, I think that you said this pre-show, not during the show. Like, it feels like it's Jalen's turn or it's Cat's turn. Every once in a while, it's OG's turn. It has very rarely been Mikal's turn to have the ball and work. Obviously, best case scenario, everything's working synergistically and there's flow. Until that point, like if I'm Tom Thibodeau, I'm saying, hey, we are calling this play for Mikal Bridges, and I'm running sets that are designed to get him the ball on the move, catch the ball with momentum, heading towards the basket, because he is long. He's a great finisher, at least early in his career was when he was playing off other guys. Like, there is just a lot more he can give you that he's not right now, and this team is not going to come close to their ceiling, not going to come close to a championship ceiling for certain, if he doesn't give you a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't really have too much more to add in that respect. And I think the only other thing is, his defense has been not nearly as good. And I wonder if that, on a Tibbs team, he wants his wings to play defense the most. And I wonder if Mikal not playing defense as well as he wants him to is leading to him getting less looks on offense, which then leads to him being more down in the dumps, which leads to him playing less good on defense, which leads to him getting less looks on offense, which, it can be cyclical. So they got to figure out that balance at some point, where he's got to get used to the fact that, like, hey, I'm going to have to play defense like I did on Phoenix now again, rather than how I did on Brooklyn, and be that level of locked in all the time, because this is a team with similar ambitions. And yet I think it's up to Tibbs too, to also recognize, like, hey, this guy's much more talented than, say, OG Anunoby, for example, who I think I don't have any problem with being treated more just kind of like a threes and cuts guy, because that's more his expertise. And we've kind of seen, like, he can't really put the ball on the floor. He can't create as much as a guy like Mikal can. Mikal can create, though. So, like, take advantage of that. Start taking advantage of that sooner than later. I want to just quickly shout out Deuce McBride, who I thought had a really nice bounce back game, had an awful game the other day where he had 0 points, 0 for 9 shooting, comes back right back to Deuce. What you expect out of him. 5 of 9 shooting overall, 4 of 6 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 16 points and 7 assists in this one. And, I don't think they were all exactly Magic Johnson assists or anything, but I thought that he did a really good job of keeping his head up. He had a variety of different assists, from just a quick, a quick pass along the perimeter that made all the difference by getting it out so quickly, to one where he was sort of rolling to the hoop and found, I think it was Josh Hart coming in baseline, which was nice. 1 or 2 where it was more of like a kick out off a drive. Like, I thought he had a pretty good game passing the ball too. And, that's what you like to see out of him. You like to see a well-rounded effort. And I thought Deuce really did good to kind of come back and get in the good column again after hopefully his roughest game of the season in the last game.
Yeah, he's an awesome shooter, and I love the confidence he brought even after going 0 for 9. Like the one that was off of like a little like dribble handoff toss back from Brunson in transition, where he just like caught it in one motion, bombed. Like when he's shooting confidently, it's the balls usually go in the basket. Like the Knicks, like when the Knicks have their best ball movement, a lot of times it's finding Deuce, because he is, I would say, pretty clearly, maybe aside from Jalen Brunson, and that's a maybe, like he's their most confident 3-point shooter right now. And the gap between him, Brunson, and everyone else is like pretty wide, which is why it would have been nice if they closed with him. And I understand like the rebounding is a concern without Hart on the floor, and you want Hart for defense. I thought Deuce like earned the role guarding Trae Young down the stretch. Like I've been pretty disappointed with Deuce's defense in general, like relative to the perception about him. And I think he's maybe a little overrated on that end of the floor. I thought like against a small guard like Trae, like that is who he's built to bother. Obviously, he had his issues with Maxey, but Maxey just says blinding speed. Trae is super quick, but it's a little bit of a different animal. He did a really good job tracing Trae Young. He got beat a couple of times because Trae, as much as we hate him, is like one of the great offensive players in basketball. But I would have liked to have seen him in down the stretch guarding Trae Young, hopefully hitting some shots on the other end, because no one else could really do that. As far as other final notes, just a little demerit for Josh Hart, because again, had a possession that died because he passed up an open 3. And it is, you hear selfishly or you hear unselfishly selfish. Like he's been selfishly unselfish. Like when you pass up that shot, it screws over your teammates who work so hard to create an advantage, so hard to create that opportunity for you. And this time when Hart passed it up and then passed the ball away, it created a 3-second violation because Cat's in the lane and Cat knows the timing of that play is like, hey, the shot from Hart is going to go up right now. I've been kicking butt as an offensive rebounder this whole game. Let me get there and make a play. And instead, like, Hart doesn't shoot it. So it's a 3-second violation, and that sucked. Did some good things defensively. Had like a nasty finish over Wallace on the Hawks and immediately got called for a tech. Like, that's been brewing for a couple of games. He's been really consistently frustrated. Look, it wasn't like a terrible game for him. Like, I thought he was maybe the least of the problems on defense. Did hit a 3 off the dribble, which is always funny to me that he's so much better off the dribble than he is on the catch and so much more confident when he's going off the dribble, maybe because he has to take it. But very mixed bag from Josh Hart. I kind of want to see Deuce in more minutes with the starters, just sort of see how it looks. And then, Alex, I'll throw it to you with a quick shout out to OG Anunoby. Had a good night. We're 35 minutes in, and we somehow have barely touched on Karl-Anthony Towns' offense. He had 34 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Another night where he had 5 offensive rebounds. I don't know if I've ever seen a player this side of Mitchell Robinson who rebounds more of his own misses. It feels like around the basket, he's gotten something like 80% of them this year and just feasts on those. Another, like, certainly had his rim protection issues in this game. Cannot play 2-on-1 the way Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein can when he's in drop. All that aside, 2 nice blocks and a monster offensive night for Cat.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add to that because I'm kind of just done talking about this game. I'm ready to turn the page. So, good job, Cat. Good job, OG. But let's do better in the next game and maybe win. That would be great. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. We got a couple more episodes this week. And, of course, check out the Locked On Knicks newsletter. If you haven't already, it's lockedondaily.com if you want to get some of our thoughts in newsletter form every day. You could definitely do that, and then go check out the podcast after you're done with that. So, anyway, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.